I loved comics. I loved programs like Take Heart or Tony Heart, so it's art-based stuff. It was always a thing that I was attracted to. And I did it at school and was very good. And then my GCSE art, I got a D, which was unexpected. So everything else, I was good at everything at school. So 5 A's, 4 B's, and a D in art. So it was okay, how did that happen? And because of that exam result, I thought, well, okay, maybe it's not for me. And I don't think I could have done it at A level with a D. So at that point, I kind of dropped it. I stopped drawing. Not completely, but it wasn't something that I thought, maybe this isn't for me. So that was a mistake in a way.
It shows how school could
be. Yeah, really, really detrimental, right? A ridiculous thing. Like looking back on it, it's
irrelevant sometimes.
Completely irrelevant. And it was an external, subjective judgment. And yet it kind of coloured my thinking for a long time, for a while. So I chose economics, which I was good at. I enjoyed it. A level. I went to the University of Greenwich, did that for 3 years, and then I did a postgraduate in law. Then life happened. So I was with my then girlfriend, and we'd met at school actually. So we'd met in the sixth form, kind of. And she became pregnant. And this was like, at that point in my life, we had a young baby, we didn't have any money, we were just trying to survive. So I was just following the next best opportunity. So I started off training as an accountant because actually there was a career path there was a promise of more money at the end of it, there was structure, I'd get a qualification, and my idea was it would lead to bigger and better things and a more stable background and environment for my family. That was the kind of thing. And actually we had another son 16 months after the first one. So at this point we had 2 children. We were very young. I was 22, my wife was 21. So we're just trying to make things work, make things happen. I started working in IT. I had no IT background, no IT experience. I didn't know what a database was. I later became a database administrator. I did super technical stuff. And I did that for about 20 years. I worked for Oracle for 5 years. I then worked for Electronic Arts, which was super cool, but doing the same sort of thing, doing IT. And then I worked for Weight Watchers. And then I went and worked back for Oracle again. And eventually building this career, moving out of the technical side, moving more into customer management, managing a team. Quite a senior level. So I had a really good career, a really good job. It was paying lots and lots of money. And then I had a bit of a health scare, I think also brought on by work. I think the stresses of that role, probably a primary cause of what happened. I was basically diagnosed with prostate cancer at 44, which is almost unheard of. So that was kind of a clue that, okay, maybe you're more stressed than you think you are. I would have meetings, and after the meeting, sometimes I'd come out in a rash, like hives, and I didn't feel stressed. If you'd asked me and said, "Oh, are you stressed?" No, I'm fine. I'm okay. This is just normal. But my body was saying something different. And then a few other little things happened at work, which not really that important, but they were okay. Maybe this is another clue. So my wife and I were on holiday. I was having this conversation with her, and I said, "Yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore." It was probably around about the same time that I started drawing again. So I started drawing again probably in around 2012, 2011, something like that. And I think it was over Christmas. I picked up a DVD cover and I copied it. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And then I found Betty Edwards' book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And I think that was the first time I realised you could be taught to draw. I didn't realise it was a skill that you could teach people. I thought you were either innately talented or you weren't. Drawing class in Windsor, actually. And it wasn't a class, it was just a session. And I'd never been to a live session before. So I was really nervous going along to that. But I went along, I was made to feel very, very welcome. And then I found another life class in Wokingham, which was closer. And I started going to that regularly. And then after that class, that was with Mick, who you've also talked to before. And then after that session, we would go to the pub. And in the pub, the interesting stuff would happen. So we'd talk about artists that we admired. We'd talk about atelier training. In the pub, Mick and I would talk, oh God, it'd be amazing if we could go to Florence or Barcelona or New York and really spend some time learning how to do this stuff. God, it'd be incredible. And I was like, yeah, I'd really love to do that. So it was at that point, it was an idea, but it was pie in the sky, never going to happen. Right? I've got 3 kids. My youngest child at that point was 15, 16. The older ones were obviously older. Work kind of it got to a point where there was an opportunity to take a redundancy, which again kind of gave me some funds to maybe do something. I was ready to move on to do something else anyway. I discussed it with my wife and she said, well, why don't you I think she just got sick and tired of me talking about it actually. And she just said, look, why don't you just go to Barcelona, have a look at the school, see if it's what you think it is, and then take it from there. So I actually went with Mick. We went up for a weekend, we had a little tour of the school, and yeah, I kind of fell in love, it was amazing. I went to Barcelona in 2019, I think it was. And again, incredibly nerve-wracking. I was in my 40s. The school there's all ages of students there. I think the youngest student is 17 or 18. The oldest student is in their 80s. I knew it would be intense. I knew it would be hard work. But I just didn't really get it until I had to do it. Because when you work from the model, you do 25 minutes, and then we have a 5-minute break, and then another 25 minutes and a 5-minute break. And the first day everyone's standing, and you do everything standing. So the first day everyone's standing and then chatting and walking around. By about day 2 or 3, and certainly by the end of the week, if there's a break, everyone's just on the floor, sat on the floor, because your feet are just absolutely destroyed. Your back is destroyed, the backs of your legs are destroyed. It just hurts, it's painful to be on your feet when you're not used to it. By week 2, you're used to it, so it's okay. It was a really intense environment to be in. There are times when people break down, there are times when people cry. You're getting a critique every day, and again, depending on your personality, how you're feeling, the tutor, and how they deliver what they're delivering. You have students crying, have students ripping their work up, have students leaving. You're the bottom rung of the ladder, and you have to learn the basics in a way.
Did you actually enjoy it?
Aspects of it, yeah. I enjoyed the whole experience of being in Barcelona. I enjoyed meeting all those people. I made some wonderful friends. I had some wonderful social experiences there. I enjoyed the life in the city in Barcelona and the different lifestyle. I think being away from my wife and her being away from me was really good for both of us because we've been together since we were 16 or 17. So actually it was a really healthy thing for us to do, that was unexpected. I thought that'd be more difficult than it was, but actually it was a positive thing in a lot of ways. In terms of the actual artwork and the drawing, there are times when I didn't want to be there. There are times when I thought, what am I doing? Why am I here? Is this really what you question. But for me, the reason for going there was, I was 44 at the time. I figured I could probably get to a similar point in about 10 years by myself. I figured if I just quit my job, spent money on materials and a space, and just drew for 10 years, I'd probably get to a similar point, self-training, right? But I wanted to sort of accelerate that. I wanted to make it, try and do 10 years work in 3 years, and that's kind of what it felt like. That's kind of that. And also the disciplines imposed. You basically get out of bed, have breakfast, walk down the street 2 blocks in my case, walk into the school, prep your materials, you draw for 3 hours, you have lunch, you draw for another 3 hours, you have a quick break, you draw for another 2 hours, you go home, you eat, you go to bed, and then you do the same thing the next day. The model's there, paid for, it's set up. Your project is there, it's set up, you have a space. Someone will come along and sort of point you in the right direction for 5 minutes every day. So from that point of view, I just don't know whether even in 10 years you'd have done the same volume of work. I'd come back from Barcelona, I kind of was doing my own thing at home in the studio. I still have an ongoing project, which is a 100 heads project. So again, this is the idea of trying to impose a bit of discipline. I wanted to be better at portraiture. So I thought, okay, I'll just do 100 portraits. And I thought they'd take me maybe 3 months, 6 months. Well, it's been over a year and I'm maybe not even halfway through. I started to take commissions, very, very sort of affordable commissions. I'd never really worked from photographs before, so that was a whole other learning experience to get your head around, and I still not sure that I really like it. And then while I was doing that, there was an opportunity to come to the Abbey as an artist in residence, and they have artists in residence normally every year. It's not a paid position, so it's a voluntary position, but they do provide some like a materials budget, a studio space, and a little bit of sort of travel expenses. And actually, it's been a really, really lovely place to be. In return for sort of the studio space and everything else, we do like after school clubs with the children. So we'll do like an hour where I do like a life drawing class with them, but they draw each other. We have music, and it's kind of meant to be less, not like a class, not taught, but an opportunity for them just to come. And they don't have to come, it's just a voluntary club. And I think even if you want to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, actually drawing is something that you can do for yourself. You don't have to do it for anyone else. So I'm always just trying to almost make them not worry about the outcome of their drawings, but just try it, just draw something, just try it, doesn't matter, don't judge it, just react to what you're seeing, and then do it again, and then do it again, and do it again, and don't kind of get out of the way of yourself. So it's kind of it's a useful experience for me, because the stuff that's coming out of my mouth is really what I say to myself, really, when I'm trying to get out of my own way and trying to do my own practice and trying not to be too self-critical, and yeah. So my analogy is it's a bit like learning a musical instrument. So you have the instrument, you learn scales. Once you learn your scales and where to put your fingers and how to actually play the thing, then you start to play other people's music. You play other songs, and you play more progressively difficult music until you're competent and really, really good. And then you have to practice. You have to keep that practice up to maintain a level. But at this point, you've not written anything yourself. You've not expressed it. You might have expressed yourself through other people's music and the way that you play it, and the way that you make marks, or the way that you in terms of art. But really, all of the stuff up until that point is just, for me, a technical exercise. How to do this? How do I make this look like this? How do I solve this problem? And none of it's about what do I say, what do I express, what's important to me, why am I doing this, why am I putting this on a canvas? And that's where I am now. That's this phase.